I talk to a spirit. She comes in my dreams.
What is the path to awakening supposed to look like? To feel like? How do you know if you are on it? We ask these very sacred and sometimes vulnerable questions to many different women from all walks of life. A conversation that needs to be shared and heard. I'm Jo Hendy.
I'm Amanda Parker.
And welcome to the Girl Awakening podcast. Good morning, Amanda.
You were waiting for me to jump in. I was thinking about it, but then I was like, no, I'm just going to slow down because the energy is a bit high this morning.
Yeah, take a nice big deep breath in.
Yes.
So we are here with a lovely guest. We haven't actually had her on for a little while, but the timing is perfect.
Yes.
Yes.
I feel like we've been, dancing around some of the energies of this week, and particularly today feels
weird.
Yes. Maybe we're opening a door for that we've all been building up to, or maybe it's bigger than that.
I just love when we get. By the way, welcome back, Narelle Clyde.
Yes, thank you.
We
so
love
good to be back.
Yes,
appreciate you.
And
so beautiful.
It always comes at the most perfect time.
Always and always.
The cards we have pulled this morning.
Yes.
That's
Very
what
cool.
I resonate with. Now you asked me that question before.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Which, by the way, the card was perfect timing.
Yeah.
And Narelle pulled trust the process.
Yeah.
And the sun hit me with a mega ray this morning saying trust to love. So there's a lot of
trusting.
A lot of trust.
Yeah. And we even talked about what are we going to talk about this morning, and it was like, let's just jump on in. We had a couple of things that have come up, but the feeling that I get even driving here this morning, it was like there was nothing coming in. It was just like, no, just trust. And now I know that,
being in the space of alignment with what happens when the three of us come together. Because we're all by nature inquisitive, and we're all walking on that path of asking the questions. And we're just going to laugh.
My stomach is literally going growling.
That's another thing, our bodies, which is also very funny, we're going to share in a minute, very funny, our bodies are all expressing a lot today, which is also another sign.
Indeed.
Yeah. You cannot ignore the body. But Jo was sent a beautiful reel by her beautiful son, which was asking a lot of questions around who am I, and am I this body, am I my spirit, am I this mental part of myself, am I the name that my parents have given me? And
I just got a little tingle of emotion when you said that, because it's like, it's really deep, isn't it? Like when we can really settle in and ask that question. The bottom line is we are love, but it's a whole array of layers before we can even feel that aspect of who we truly are. Let's go there this morning. Who are we? Who am I?
Who are we?
Yeah. Do you want to open that up? Or
Oh
do you
my
want to give
gosh,
us your...
where would I even start?
Yeah, your viewpoint around that maybe for you. Have you asked yourself that question before?
I have asked that question on repeat for much of my life, and I think I've been thinking a lot about my overarching message, and it's remember who you are. Like that is it always has been the message, and as I'm doing my website and different things at the moment, I'm being asked to really dive into that and to refine it, and I'm like, does that still resonate? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, because I really stand by the ability for people, or the opportunity for us to know who we are, to really know who we are, and not who we label ourselves as or identify with, or even the physical body or any of that stuff, but really, really sink into the depth of who am I, how can I access more of that limitless love, eternal light, radiant beauty, everything that is within that we so as a collective seek for outside of ourselves in in numerous ways, you know. And I was just thinking about this yesterday, how it's very common, or that's not the right word, but you'll get where I'm going with this. Popular, perhaps to swap out, you know, the external validation through handbags and clothes and status and all of that stuff, to then how spiritual you are, you know, how many ice baths you've done, how much yoga, how much breath work, how many whatever courses, wow. And it's still this seeking externally, and where we're just continually being guided for, and I think I might have even said this on the last podcast I was on here, we're just being directed within. It's like you have to go within to really discover who you actually are. It's always going to be inside of you. It's never going to be found anywhere else, not in the stars, not in your gene codes, you know, whatever. It's going to be from within, that piece that is always there and always will be.
Wow, it runs so deep, and but also is quite freeing as well, because the one thing that I've been learning personally in the last few years is exactly what you just said, and there is so much freedom in that, because I don't it's kind of like I don't care what others think, you know. That's one thing that I've really dropped, and it's not coming from a place that I don't give a fuck about others or any of that. It's more that I'm at a place now where I know what's right and what's wrong, and I'm not willing to compromise, but coming from a place of love. So there's no guilt, like all the layers there, just in even that communication that I just said. Then there's so many layers in all of that as well. But it's like I've just found so much freedom in that. You know, I'm just like, I can be there with somebody and I can give them as much as I can give. I can't make them better. I can't fix them. I can just be with them and give them, I suppose, my experience, take ownership for that, but also feel a lot of freedom in that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the greatest gift that you can give someone, is one, presence, like you said, like you didn't say presence, but the energy of that, and to love them. Like, we don't need to fix anyone, we don't need to anything, we just need to see them in their truth, which is love. So past the mask, the facade, the illness, the emotion, the whatever, all of that is temporary and transient. Who they really are is love. And so when you can hold them in that space and see them in that truth, then that's what will reveal itself to them, and then you are both healed in the process, right?
That moment just in itself, both healed in the process. I think that is something that's pretty underestimated, the gift of that. Because we're, like you said, there's always the shoes, the handbag, the car, the sparkle here or there, the more materialistic things that can be a way of recognizing the gift, you know, being given something as opposed to feeling something, being in something that is speaking to you in ways that don't even require words.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's kind of two threads on that one, and I'll see if we can tie them both together. One is like, you know, we do these things, or buy these things, or access these things material wise to give us the feeling, and that's again, it's only going to be temporary, because where you're accessing it from is temporary, and so it's cultivating that peace within, and then and that is beyond words. That is an inner communication. And I think we're really being guided again, yes, to go within, but also to be super aware of that external and internal communication, because there is a lot of noise in the world, and it's getting louder and louder, and so many people are really wanting to just opt out of that. It's like, what is this noise? What is it distracting me from, really? And you know, less people are wanting to be on social media and sort of seeing it for this you know,
space filler.
It is a space filler, and it's like,
tell
wow,
me what to think, tell me what to do.
Imagine what's possible when you think for yourself, when you tune into your own space, your own thoughts, your own energy, the unique vessel that you have come to be, this conduit for the divine in only the way that you can, and you can interpret it in the way that you are meant to. And we can't do that when we're constantly filling ourselves with 10-second snapshots of somebody else's experience or life, or what they're trying to sell us or whatever. That's a whole...
I think that I understand exactly what you're saying, and I so resonate with that and feel it, because there's moments where I find myself slipping back into the areas of, I really like that bag. You know, I still do it. You know, I really like that skirt or whatever. It's going to make me feel good, blah, 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 blah. And there are moments of that, but it's whether that you have the awareness around that thing or not to be able to go, okay, I'm enjoying this moment right now, but I know it's not going to fulfill me. It's temporary. But it's also just having the awareness of like doing something from your own unique beingness. This is what I love what you just said. Not looking at somebody else and going, I want to be like them, I want to do what they're doing. It's actually believing in and trusting in that you are the divine being that you are supposed to be, and it 100%. Doesn't have to look like anyone else.
And it will never
look like anyone else.
The most authentic expression of you is never going to look like anyone else. And I was thinking about this in the shower this morning, actually, of how anyone who's created anything significant in the world did not do it by following somebody else's formula or strategy. It came from divine inspiration and then was followed or discovered through their own processes, whatever that may be. And so it's great to look to other people for inspiration and maybe for guidance, but
or questioning. Why is that so? What do I think about that?
That's right. So coming back to your own sovereignty and your own expression and trusting in your own truth, knowing that often it's going to be completely different to other people's truths, and that's okay. Like, I think we're, not wanting to feel the discomfort of, other people's opinions or judgments or expectations or whatever. But actually, if we go a layer underneath that, any perceived judgment that we think somebody else has on us is actually our own judgment on ourselves anyway. So it's such a gift, because that's then a clue to go, there's where my work is. That's the piece that I need to clean up, because really we're here to just totally be free in ourselves as we walk through the world in our divine expression and creating whatever we're here to create. And that is, to come back to your point before, Jo, is freedom.
Freedom.
Right? Total liberation.
And in particular, that's been something that's been resonating a lot with myself recently. And I think, again, with some of the other conversations we've been having around being in person with people, or as close to as possible, like Zoom, thank God for whatever. But when we have messages, texting, that plays, or things like that, where it's not in person and you don't have the physical bodily eye contact, body energy connection going on, to actually have more barometers of reading what the intention of the words or the interaction that's been exchanged. When you have a text message coming at you, and if you're in that funk in yourself, it can literally colour that text message or that what you're reading on social media so much that you're missing the person completely, and it's all about you and what you're picking up in that space.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And so we are always seeing the world through the filter of how we're holding our energy and our experiences. And now we are noticing how our thoughts are becoming things into social media. You know, you only have to think about something and then poof, there it is. And, you know, whether you want to call that the energetic algorithm or whatever it is, like the thoughts are in the field and they are being read. And so it's like such a pivotal time of being radically responsible for what we are thinking, as like, you know, to put it into very real terms, but it's imagining that you have a megaphone strapped to your head that is blasting out every thought that you are thinking, and bringing the awareness to that. Like, would I be okay with that? Like, how do I talk to myself?
I love that.
How do I think about others? Because what is happening is our thoughts are being blasted out all around the multiverse, and it's creating.
So can I just ask a question there?
Yeah, that's awesome.
How do you explain that for our listeners? Are we talking? I
don't know. Well, I think we're talking.
Right. Are we talking about quantum universe? How are you, like, how can you explain that our thoughts are going out into, you know, there and creating just our thoughts alone? Like, I know that we hear that as in, you know, your thoughts create your actions and so forth. But how do we explain to people that our thoughts are actually, other people are picking up on our thoughts? Like you're saying that the algorithms and all of that. How is that happening?
Well, that, I mean, you can go into the, you know, quantum theory and all of that piece behind it. Yeah. But the way that resonates and feels the most simple for me to understand is that we are all part of the one mind. So we are split fragments of this one mind, and so everything is shared. So it doesn't matter that we're not in the same part of the world or whatever, because we share this one mind. Every thought that we all think has an impact and an influence on everybody else. And so when that comes to creation, it just stems from the point that everything is created from that one mind, which is the central point from where we all start and end, really, where we come back to. And so, you know, energy is created from thought. Everything is created from thought. So anytime we want to change or create something, we have to loop back to the starting point, which source is thought. The original source.
Wow. And that's been demonstrated physically, like with, say, monkeys, like, say, scientists proving this theory or whatever, this reality, this the truth in that. So with a monkey learning a new trick, say here in location B, and over here on the other side of the world in location X, another monkey starts doing exactly the same thing.
What do they call that? The 100 monkey syndrome or something? It's called. There's actually
the 100th monkey is a little bit different, but there is a monkey analogy. So
yes.
Well, it is like the 100th monkey, because my mind always goes in two different directions, because my aunt gave me a book when I was a child called The 100th Monkey, and it was literally around the similar process where someone does something here and holds the next person's hand, and they hold the next person's hand, and before the next thing, you know, everyone around the world is holding hands, and we're all in the same
thought pattern kind of thing.
Space thought pattern. So 100th monkey, I guess, is a beautiful way to share the simplicity or the truth of that. But and another thing they've done with quantum things is splitting, I'll say an atom, I'm not sure if that's quite the right thing, but a light photon, I think, was actually what it was. And they expected them to, and they sent them into different ends of a spectrum, and they expected them to act differently. But it was exactly as you said, they were of the one mind, because if one atom was stimulated and one photon, I should say, was stimulated and did one thing, the other photon did exactly the same thing.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, and that's freaky.
Yeah.
So, yes, the hundredth monkey, and the fact that we are light beings. We are light.
Exactly. And so I think
of the one mind.
We're recognizing this more because we're feeling more, and we're seeing more, and we're sensing more, and we're seeing things come into reality very, very quickly. And so it's like, whoa, got to watch my thoughts, because things are speeding up. And that is it's the celestial speed up that we're experiencing.
And that's hence why our intuition is so full on at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
You think of somebody and they show up, and you might not have seen them in years, and all it's like, it's getting to the stage now where you just kind of expect it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And the thing what you just mentioned then about watching your thoughts, that is not a thing of like, watch your thoughts, keep them secret.
No, because there are no secrets. Yeah, that's it.
That is like
everything
clear
is on
your
show
thoughts
to the universe. Yeah, it is like purify your thoughts. Like, if you would not be okay for somebody to hear what goes on inside your head, then there's work to do. We all have work to do. Even if it's just the way we talk to ourselves. I say just talk to ourselves, like we should be talking to ourselves like we would talk to a best friend, with absolute love and care. But we don't. We beat ourselves up, and we should all over ourselves, and so even that, but even more than that is the judgments that we have towards others. And we might think, I don't really judge anyone or whatever. Have the awareness as you walk around the day, and just notice how you judge how someone's walking, what their hair is like, what's whatever. It can be like the seemingly smallest and insignificant thing, but nothing is bigger or smaller than anything else. So it doesn't matter if you're having murderous thoughts about someone, or if you are having criticizing the way they do their makeup. It's the same. It's all the same when it comes to the energy you're putting out is exactly what you're getting back, because as we give to others, we give to ourselves, because we are all of the one mind. So if you're giving someone a compliment, if you're giving someone money, if you're giving someone love, if you're giving someone anger, all of that is coming back to you. So I know what I choose to give.
It's just hearing you say that, I'm just thinking too of, for me, one of the biggest awakenings for me was how judgmental I was, unaware of it though.
Oh yeah,
feeling
absolutely.
like I was just normal because I was around people that were doing it. So it was just normal.
Totally.
To be like that.
Yeah.
Almost like comical.
Yeah.
Because it became funny, and I didn't realize how uncompassionate I was towards others. It was like, if I had a judgment on somebody, it would be okay
because they deserved it.
Yeah,
but you think it's justified.
It's justified. And I'm not hurting them.
Yeah, exactly, because it's just a thought in my mind.
Absolutely. Unaware that what you're just saying, the frequency of that is so heavy on myself that I constantly was beating up on myself and constantly finding the flaws in myself and constantly not liking what I was seeing, and that was a big awakening for me.
It's huge.
Feeling the difference between seeing somebody on the street and having a different thought around them, like having more compassion for them, and it just changed everything.
Yeah, because everyone is a fragment of you, right? You're seeing everyone as your brother, as a Course in Miracles would talk about it. Everyone is your brother. Everyone is a reflection. And so when you're judging something in someone else, it's a projection of your own
struggles
guilt and shame and whatever you're withholding. So
one of the things I found helpful in breaking that process of judgment was asking questions. Like if I caught myself judging something or someone, was to ask a question: why do you think they've done their hair like that? Why do you think they're wearing those clothes? Why do you think this is happening like that? And then go down a path of questioning things. And it's, interesting what comes up, because then, you start to think, well, maybe they didn't have time to get dressed properly this morning. Maybe they don't have a home. Maybe they're, blah, blah. And it's quite interesting how that takes you straight away into, you can be really rigid, stuck in that judgment, and continue down quite a harsh line of like, well, they obviously don't, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you practice it for a while, you do go into compassion around giving. Maybe they don't have a parent to do their hair in the morning. Maybe they don't have this. Maybe this happened in their life, or it instantly takes you into I say instantly, but it doesn't always. It's a practice, like it is exercising an intuition muscle. It's a practice of exercising compassion by asking those questions. Why do you think this is happening like that? Why do you think that person is doing it that way?
Yeah, it opens your perspective. Instead of having a limited view of how the world is. It's like, well, there's all these other possibilities, and at the end of that unraveling is, either a gift for yourself of, okay, what am I seeing in them that I'm not accepting or expressing in myself, or haven't, can I choose to let this go? Does this mean anything about me or the world, or do I need to make it mean anything? I mean, nothing has any meaning except the meaning we give it, right?
And because often we get into these patterns, and when we get to that point of going, my idle mind is just throwing negative shit around.
Yeah, because that's what it loves to do. That's what it loves to do. Absolutely. And this is why a mindfulness practice of focus, like meditation, is great for being aware of those thoughts that will always come in, pretty much for as long as we are in a body and have an ego, and to clean it up, to actively clean it up. Moment by moment, day by day.
It's funny that you just mentioned that, because I did listen to Instagram. An Instagram
there
reel,
was some good
enough,
stuff out there.
which was, I wanted to say Rumi, but it's definitely not Rumi. The beautiful man that passed a few years back.
Oh, Wayne Dyer.
No.
Deep,
Big beard.
Ram Dass.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And he was talking exactly about that meditation, because the guy kept saying, but I can't, my thoughts just keep taking me away. How do I? And he said, no, you need to have a focus point. And, the focus point can be a candle, or he used a breath. He said your breath. And this is where Vipassana took me back to my Vipassana experience, where you're just focusing on the breath. Yes, thoughts are going to come in, but you just bring yourself back to the focus point continually. And I think that's what you're saying, Amanda. It's like being aware that our thoughts are going to come in no matter what. It's just what we choose to do with them. And sometimes we can even get taken down that path. The thought will come in, okay, now you've gone off track, and just bring it back, and then you'll go down another. It's just continual, just bringing yourself back. Bringing yourself back.
And every time you do, that's a rep, it's like strengthening that muscle.
That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
So
it's always a win.
Always a win. Yeah. We love a win.
We love a win.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the monkey, 100th monkey, my beautiful friend Carla up in Mackay, hello Carla, she was the first person who used the word monkey mind. That I went, oh yes, the monkey mind. It literally just speaks volumes of what that space is, of how the mind literally plays
on a tangent.
And if we don't have a healthy relationship with it, it definitely doesn't want to have a healthy relationship with us. It just wants to be the boss.
It does. And once it gets traction, it just goes down this whole road, and all of a sudden you're the worst thing that's ever happened to planet Earth, And so that's why it's so important to catch it as soon as you can, and then bring it back to the truth, because the truth is loving, it's peaceful, it's joyous, it's eternal. The fear monkey mind is aggressive and hateful and fearful and limited and transient. So it's just choosing, choosing for love or choosing for fear. And it's
Well,
always a choice.
That brings us right back to where we started, to that, who am I?
Yeah.
Because a lot of us think that we are our thoughts. And that's an entrapment in itself, isn't it? Just believing that, what I think is who I am. And it's like, that is a tangent in itself.
Yeah, because it's like the opposite.
Oh my God, yeah.
Actually.
But the group mind, or the planetary thought, is that we are what we think.
Yeah. Which technically is true, because, if you are thinking loving thoughts, then, you are closer to your truth. While we're here in the body, we're never going to be exactly in our truth, because we're unlimited beings, and in a body you're limited. And so and if you're thinking, I'm tired, or I'm sick, or I'm old, or I'm whatever, then guess what? Like that's, your cells are spying on you, as Dr. Joe Dispenza would say.
Yeah.
And that's, from a very dense form of consciousness even. So we're always just wanting to go to that higher vantage point of truth and connect to source, to lead us and guide us, because it knows. And so if we can join with that thought system, we're winning for sure.
And there is a component to that too, which I know Amanda brought up earlier, which we were talking about today.
Yes.
Which was around frequency, energy, vibration, frequency, and how powerful our communication is, because that's what carries the thought. The thought carries a vibration, a frequency that can impact not only our bodies and our cells and everything, but other people as well. And so there is a real thread around at the moment, which has obviously been around forever, but we're more aware of it now, is the art of communicating more lovingly, more correct.
Yeah.
That felt a bit harsh saying correct. But,
You mean like putting, say, I feel this...
I just
putting
mean
more content, more person into, more heart into the feeling into the communication.
I would say more truth.
More truth.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, authenticity. It's a real buzzword at the moment, and for good reason, because when we are speaking authentically, or put the other way, if we're speaking inauthentically, it's felt. And so now we're learning to trust our intuition more, and we're getting more access to it. And so we're knowing when things that are being said are not true. And so things that used to fly, especially in like sales and marketing, for example, they're not flying anymore, because we're reading the energy of it, the frequency, and not just what's being said. And that's why there's so many times you might see something or read something like, yeah, that all makes sense to me, but something just feels off. And it's because the energy with which it was written, or the person who wrote it, or the intention behind it, or whatever, is not in integrity with the words, and it's not from an authentic place. And so everything just has to be go through that cleaning process. And so if we're not in our authentic truth, whether it's in business, in friendship, in love, in wherever, it's going to show. The cracks are they're really starting to show on a collective scale, and that's only going to get bigger and deeper, and which will force everyone to stand in authentic truth in all moments.
Truth will prevail. And I love that saying. And also the truth doesn't need defending, and the truth will set you free.
I love that one.
Yeah. And
so
it's so true, because I as you were talking just then, I was thinking about how many people think that they're speaking the truth, but they're actually speaking through an experience. So it's their truth. So there's this beautiful analogy where, you know, it's like there's his way and there's her way and then there's the truth. It's like, because we're always communicating through our own experiences. So it's our truth, but it's not necessarily the truth.
Yeah.
So this is where I think the disappearance of the universe comes in too, when there's so many aspects of one situation. And once we can view them all, then it disappears. There's nothing to argue about anymore, because we've seen it all from everybody's viewpoint, or all the viewpoints. But it's, you know, the truth's it's a funny thing to talk about, because we all see things so differently.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I think it's being totally solid in yourself, that you can speak your truth without worrying about what other people think, without it being right or wrong, without it being misinterpreted or whatever. And, you know, we can trace all of those things all the way back through lifetimes of, you know, pain and suffering and suppression and different aspects.
The experiencing of the different aspects.
Exactly, yeah. And that's it. It's all coming from lifetimes of experiences.
Yeah.
And then I lost the second part. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, because what I think where you are going is what I was getting from what you were saying too, Joe, and like what we don't often realise is that our truth is subjective.
Yeah.
So it's
absolutely,
you know, it's definitely not the same for everyone.
Yeah.
And it comes back to the authenticity and being loving ourselves enough, brave enough to stand in our truth and say, I am this, or I experience this. This is my thought, and to know that somebody else will see things differently or experiencing
and be
things
okay with that,
and all be okay
not
with
be
that.
offended,
Yeah.
not be triggered, not be whatever. It's that's where the work is. To be able to just stand in that, and for everybody to have their truth can be completely opposing, and everybody still gets along. Like that's totally okay. And I think, to go back to what we were saying earlier about, you know, spending less time on social media, for example, because, you know, everyone is spruiking their versions of the truth. And so if we're constantly consuming other people's truths, we're never going to get to hear our own. And so it's really important that we do disconnect and then reconnect within, so that we can know our own truth, and not, you know, especially for me, people pleasing was just something that I did, and I, you know, still see threads of it through my life. And it's such a interesting thing, because you think you're being nice and doing the right thing and all the rest of it, and it's such a disservice to those people around you. And that's a big one, because you don't know who you are, which I think is why this has been my life's quest to discover who I really am, and share that with others. And because it's you can't know who you are when you're constantly saying yes to other people and just following
so
their
true.
needs.
And what you were saying earlier around, you know, that you've, as far back as you can remember, about asking, trying to, you know, who am I, and then coming to the realization that it was a remembering. I can remember being younger, and I guess that age when people are saying, oh, what are you going to be when you leave school, and what do you want to do? And asking myself constantly, what do I want to do? And it wasn't about thinking about a job or anything. It was like more about, what am I here on the planet for? That was the feeling that I had when I think of what I was asking myself. And I think that's something that probably is an innate part of ourselves, but it gets coloured over with a job, a this, a that, you know. And the remembering is coming back to that very essence of ourselves, of, you know, what are we here on the planet for? Which can feel kind of terrifying. You know,
It's like
just a little.
you know, it kind of sounds all like, oh yeah, remembering like, you know, who you are and your soul's mission, or you know, whatever.
What if I get it wrong?
And it's like it's nothing to do with what you do. Like, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. That's just an expression. It's about who you are in the process. You know, people who are in all sorts of different jobs, and they're healing through the work that they do because of who they be. It's not that they're a traditional quote unquote healer. It is, but they are just through who they're being, and that is what's important. That is the you know, what stacks up the coins in the universal bank of awesomeness. Yeah, exactly. It's nothing to do with the job or the empire we build or the legacy we leave in the traditional sense. It is, because that's just all temporary. It's like here you build, you go, like whatever, what does it even matter? It's who you be, and that divine expression that has the ripple effect through the world, because we are of the one mind. Everything you do matters, like everything. And so, you know, if we're pointing fingers about, you know, not enough is being done about what's happening in another part of the world or whatever, it's like, what are you doing about your piece in that? And your peace, as in PEACE. It's about cultivating that within yourself, letting go of all grievance, judgment, anger, guilt, shame, etc., and then watch the outer world shift accordingly, because it's all just a mirror.
I don't think
we
you
start
can
viewing things differently, don't we? Like as
in something, the movie of life changes.
and the energy ripple, you can't underestimate.
It's
all
enormous.
of that space.
Yeah, absolutely. Like everything we do, like it's when we really, you know, nut it out or dial down to the smallest point of it, it's quite a responsibility, you know, because nothing doesn't have a consequence. Well, everything has a consequence, right?
Yeah.
And so, but the great thing about that is when we are living from that space of divinity, love, peace, joy, then because that's what we're living, because that's what we're giving out, that is what's coming back to us, and it's that beautiful flow. And
whether you're a butcher, a baker, candlestick maker,
exactly,
whatever
it doesn't
it
matter.
is,
And I think that also takes the pressure off, because it's not like, oh God, I've got to choose this like one career or one business or one path that really makes a difference. It's like, no, but who you are is making a difference, and everything else is just for fun. It's an expression, it's play.
Yeah, I'm hearing exactly what you're saying. I just want to take a more, how do I want to put it, 3D view of it. Because we are like, we're born onto the planet, and you know, we're born into a family, and a beautiful family, and who has great intentions and all of that. But we're also born into this world where, you know, loving yourself first of all is not a great thing. It's like a, you know, you're made to feel like you're stuck up or whatever it is. I'm just, you know, saying it how it is.
Who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are? Tall poppies, all those type of things. And then we, you know, we go to school and we're educated to be smart. And if you're not smart, then you're dumb. And then that creates a story around that. And then you have to get a job because you have to earn money. You know, there's all these 3D constructs in place that are leading us in the opposite direction to everything we've just talked about. And it's like, then we may, you know, be in this field for 30 years until we wake up one day. And in saying that, only few of us wake up one day and say, it's all fucking back the front and upside down. I've been doing it the wrong way. Then we go through the stage of guilt and blame and all of that, you know, but it's like
disintegration.
The world is back the front and upside down.
It is.
Completely.
Yeah, it's a complete, chaosville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we sit here and we're having this beautiful conversation, and we wish and hope that people are listening and waking up at the same time, or having the same awareness, and are going, fuck yeah, it's time, because it is time. It's like I think I've got many friends that are still and completely beautiful people, but still playing in that area. Arena.
And I think this is where, like, I think, like where you talk about the upside down and back to front, the teaching of things, of skills. Again, it's the mindfulness, like it's the grind where we're taught things, like we're born into a family. Some families, self-love is taught.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other families, there's no love.
Complete opposite.
But there is a solidarity of, and in our work, we're not taught, or often there's not a communication around loving your skills, or understanding your skills, or relating to your skills that you're learning in a way that has purpose or meaning. It's just like, you do this, you do that, and then you get paid, and then you go home. There's the automation process has dulled out the meaningfulness and the purposefulness of things, where things would become more right way up. And if the meaning for doing things was incorporated into the process, the language was there for people to relate to their processes in a more meaningful way. And as you say, that would then carry out being more present in the I am of what they're doing on a daily basis. And the mundane would become meaningful and mindful and enriching.
Because it all stems from the person who's doing the thing. So whatever the person is doing, whether they're changing their child's nappy, whether they're doing the dishes, whether they're working at a corporate job, it doesn't matter what the doing thing is. It's the energy from which it's being done while we're here on this earth. And choosing not to buy into narratives that we've been conditioned and programmed to. So it's like the untethering of, you have to work hard to make money, you have to whatever the story is that is supposedly true. Like if there's a belief that we hold, that we believe to be true but we wish wasn't true, well, guess what? We get to change that. And it doesn't matter if 99.9% of the world also has that belief. You get to change that. And by doing that, you are unraveling in the collective mind. And if everybody does that, that's where it all, eventually falls apart. And, to your point earlier, Joe, everyone will wake up eventually, and so it's only a matter of time. But in the meantime, everyone's in perfect timing. It couldn't be any other way. And so those people who we feel like, like you could be living such a happier life or whatever, that's our lens, that's our story. They're perfectly perfect doing whatever they're doing. And so that's our judgment, right? That's us saying, you should be different, you should be whatever. And that's bullshit. It's our stuff, it's always us. So all we need to ever do is see through eyes of love. And it sounds so fluffy and so like, just see everyone through eyes of love. That's hard. It's a full-time job. That's a real job, that's a real work. And that is what changes the world.
And there's definitely more of that happening. There's definitely more of that happening.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I was even the simple act of getting the coffee this morning, I was sharing with Joe the conversations that were in the place of while I was waiting for my coffee, were just not your normal conversations. They were literally like two men having a conversation around grounding affirmations and action affirmations, and that was the yin and the yang, and the other man's going, oh, like, and they're just normal looking. I would say normal looking guys, you know, if you want to put it that in that context.
Not like mala beads around the neck.
No.
The classic spiritual look.
Yeah, exactly. There was, and then, you know, another older man and a younger girl and another guy were talking around where they were sharing experiences, and it went from climbing mountains to doing washing to, you know, journaling her frequency because it was helping to uncover hurts and this and that, and they're all going, yeah, that's right, I've done
so
that.
wild.
And I was
So
like,
good.
am I getting coffee at, you know, some kind of off the planet spot? It was like, and this
so
is just
good.
a really mixed crowd of people, very mixed, and I was, and you just go, wow, this is, and that's when you get the joy and that, there is so many shifts happening around, you know.
And that's part of what you created, your creation too. You know, it's all happening for
exactly.
you. You're being in that space,
Your
that
movie of
quantum
life.
field. It's everything that played out was all there happening for you. That's the part that I'm loving at the moment.
Yeah.
Just give me a hip.
Yeah. It's like I was going to say this before. It's, you know, we talk about the field and the people and all of that, and how we're all one and we're all connected. And the more you hang out with different people, the more refined that gets, because I can think of something and Amanda will text me that exact thing, and it might be something completely
Random.
not what we're
Obscure,
talking about. And I'm having that with my kids and with my husband, and so many things. I can think about something and bang, it's like there in my space, and I just get so much joy from that.
How cool is
How
that?
cool.
Yeah.
And it's like an affirmation that I'm in alignment, or I'm in flow and
In love.
and in love, and the that's the beauty that's available in the space right now. It's all, and there is chaos happening as well, but it's all happening for me. And it's all perfect,
course.
you know. And I find I'm getting so much gratitude in people playing out certain things for me at the moment, and being able to go, wow, look at you and your soul doing that for me, so I can have this experience to learn this lesson about myself. Not only are you going through your own lessons, but you're playing that out for me. And it's like, it just changes everything.
It does. A shift in perspective. It just brings, it makes everything a gift rather than a challenge. Like, yes, it doesn't mean there's uncomfortable things and crunchy bits and sticky bits and all the things, but when we know that it's all happening for us, like, wow, that's when we get to tap into that beautiful flow, because we're not resisting it. It's like, okay, cool, like, thank you for this lesson.
I want to add to that too, because it comes back to that honesty and authenticity. So it's like, if I've got an issue around something, it's not being afraid or scared that it's a reflection of me. So I've been finding that when I share my deepest wounds or my deepest challenges with my friends, it opens a space for them to be able to share or support or help in the exact right area, if that makes sense. So it's a viewpoint that they may give that just connects with what I need. And it's like, oh yes, that's exactly what I needed. But I had to get out of my own way and out of my own ego, and I've got this thought to step into that vulnerable space, you know, and be able to share, to be able to get what I need.
Absolutely. It is. It's again, it's the gift of letting yourself be fully seen, you know, heart exposed on the chopping block, like, you know, the fear of rejection or whatever the individual fear is. And that's where true intimacy is created, because then we can really be seen and supported in a way that it's impossible if we're not being our true authentic self. And then that opens the space up. I'm having all these bing 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 moments right now, just as I'm sharing this, but it's like, then that opens the space for that person as well. Absolutely.
And then that opens the space up for whoever might be connected to that situation,
so you see
as
that
well.
kind of web and the ripple effect that happens as the result of that one action or interaction.
One moment of bravery or vulnerability,
which is that radical responsibility. That's what it comes back to too, doesn't it? Because you're actually taking responsibility not only for your own situation, but also for each person that is a part of that.
Yeah. And so you see how like that is in like who you be in the world is what you're here to be.
Yes.
It's not about what you do in any way, shape or form.
Yes.
It's who you be, and then that ripple effect creates a wave of healing and truth and love and expansion. That's so cool.
That is so cool.
So speaking of that too, because taking it into like say a unique space, like recently you created the Eden Retreat, and the tag name that came out of that was reverse aging.
Yes.
Within and I'm bringing this up because of it being like a unique moment in time where it was like a week where it was a focused energy, some of the things we've been talking around, like a focus of intention, a vulnerability, and you held space and guided people to put themselves, remember who they are. It
was incredible. We did before and after photos of everybody, so the first day and the last day, and just the like shoulders physically lower than when they started. Just everyone looked younger, more vibrant, healthier, happier. Everything just it just when we let go of masks and shoulds and stories and emotions that we just carry around like this heavy baggage, all of that lets our inner radiance come through and shine, and we get to be more of who we actually are, and that is like I said at the beginning, beauty, radiance, joy, love, peace, eternal light, limitless light.
That's a beautiful way, just for everyone listening to that, how our story can be an entrapment, and a big entrapment. That seems to be a real theme at the moment too, that our story locks us into being either the victim or the savior, or it doesn't matter what it is.
Doesn't matter,
It's still a savior, and it's still a story, and it still holds us somewhere. So we're actually not allowing ourselves to break out of anything. Yeah.
Because that's my job.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's your identity.
And that's it. It's like, what if I let go of that? And what if I let go of that? And that's where it comes back to the terrifying thing. Well, who am I without
But that's who I am. Yes, who am I without that?
And so the willingness to let it all fall away, let it all crumble, let it all just, hand it over to the divine source, creator, and just take anything away from me that's not in alignment. Take all my stories, take all my things I think I should be or I have been, and show me who I really am.
Wow.
And the beauty and the flow and the life force that comes from that space, if you can get past the terrifying aspect of like, oh God, what's it gonna, because it's the unknown, like when we have a control on our identity and like what we look like and what we do for work and all of that stuff, that's, we're in control, then we know. But outside of that is the unknown, and that's really where the magic is. But it takes bravery and courage to really go there and be willing to face whatever the creator has in store for us as our truth, which is always going to be way better than we can possibly imagine, but we just need a little willingness to go there.
And it's funny, isn't it, how we can't compartmentalize what it's going to look like if we do that.
Based on our limited stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because limiting ourselves straight
away.
away.
The brain only knows what it knows from experience.
Yeah.
And the unknown is, something way beyond what we've ever had before. And so, of course, it's going to be something better because it comes straight from the divine. So it's going to be in full alignment. But, the brain's already got a story, like, but it's going to happen this way, or I saw this happen to this person, or whatever.
It'll be safe if we go that way.
The safety, and it's if we can just, the more familiar and practiced we can be at jumping off the metaphorical cliff naked, the easier it becomes because our tolerance is higher. And so we're not, so scared to leap all the time. If we're just continually leaping, day after day. That's why, I don't know who said it, but whatever thought leader's probably been said 1,000 times about doing something every day that scares you is so wonderful, because then you're just going to leap into bigger and better things, whatever the Creator's got in store for us. So.
And what scares you might be walking around the block a different way.
Yes.
Simply because you walk the other way all the time. That doesn't have to be super scary.
Doesn't have to be
just
anything
a little bit different.
crazy.
And that can be scary because it...
Yeah, because it's different. It's unknown. Yeah.
Matthias De Stefano says that the people that do the craziest things, like, these people that will climb a mountain and jump off, and all this, like the I'm
torn between being petrified and wanting to do it because that freedom of flying but it's like
I'd rather astral travel.
He talks about those type of people, the extreme sports people. The reason they love it is because they're cracking their brain. This is the way he puts it.
Wow.
So they're literally cracking new pathways inside their brain. He said because they're putting themselves into that crazy outside anything normal state.
Potential death.
Where they're literally, his way of putting it was cracking their brain. I loved it. I was like, I love that. It's funny, just as we were talking about that before, this weird thing kept coming up for me around years ago when I went for a job interview. One of the questions was, how are you with change? Fine with change. Yep, change. I'm a Libra and I'm balanced. Yep, I'm okay with change. And, totally convinced the person that, she's okay with change. Yeah. And then I realised that I wasn't okay with change. Yeah. And it wasn't until things would shift and change and I'd be like, but I'd never thought about that before until I was asked it.
Yeah. It's a great interview question.
Yes.
That's, what terrifies most humans, right?
Absolutely.
It's the fear of change. And that's why people stay stuck in the same patterns over and over and over and over and over, even though they know it's not good for them or it's not healthy or whatever. And
what's that saying? If nothing changes, nothing changes.
Yeah.
We last Saturday, I just want to share this quickly.
No.
Elizabeth Peru, who I love, she does like a tip off each week, which we read. It's like a forecast.
Yeah.
And last Saturday she said, do something different. If you're going to drive, and she said if you're going to drive to the market or whatever, drive a different way.
She didn't say if you're going to drive to the market, but that's what you did.
That's what I did. So I go to the markets on Saturday morning. Every Saturday I go the same way, park the same spot, blah, 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 blah. So this morning I'm driving there and I'm like, I'm going to drive a different way. So I parked a completely different place and came in like the back way. And as I'm getting out of the car, I'm excited because I'm like, who am I going to run into? Yeah. What's going to happen, you know? And I'm walking into the markets and I'm thinking, well, who am I going to see that And so I walk around the markets and I run into a couple that I haven't seen in ages, like 2 years probably. Yeah, wow. Who are very close to us, but just life got in the way. And it was so perfect. It was so, when I saw them, I nearly burst into tears because I was like, this is why I had to walk that way. But it changes. Isn't that amazing? It just changes the algorithm.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And new inputs, new outputs.
Yes.
Right? It's great for creativity. It's great for everything.
Yeah. So I think we need to do more of that.
Yeah, more of that.
Crack the brain.
I'm already thinking, I'm going to not put Apple Maps on. I'm just going to drive home.
Like, 3 hours later.
Yeah, I ended up in Toowoomba.
It's so true, though. And that's when we're tapping into our intuition more too, aren't we? Because we're we're allowing that to speak louder to us. Because we're like, okay, I'm going to tap in and I'm going to go with what feels right and what feels good to me, and I'm going to allow that to lead me today.
And I think that's a great practice in trusting the unknown, because where your intuition is guiding you is very unknown, and you won't know, what's next until you have to take that move or take that step. And so it's the best practice in being comfortable being uncomfortable in the unknown.
And that's something I was reading around exactly what you're just sharing then was this is why people take drugs or drink alcohol excessively because they're not experiencing the new input, new output. You know, or they're not cracking their brain in ways that
they want to stay somewhere where they feel like they're in control.
Or,
is that what it is?
Or yeah, it's a limiting belief, I guess you could say, and being controlled, being manipulated, but thinking you're in control, thinking you're holding the reins.
Yes.
But you're not willing to walk around the block a different way, or you know, make a different decision.
Yes.
You know, you're not cracking your brain in a way that's creating expansion in you and fulfillment and recognition of who you are. It's a destructive way.
Beautiful say. That's
so
a
it's
beautiful
like,
way to look at it.
You know, this is why some people do drugs.
No, absolutely.
This is why some people drink excessively. This is why some people get road rage, because it gives them an endorphin hit. You know,
experience.
Yeah,
it's so true. And look, I've got a husband that lives by this rule. You know, like he wants to drive down a road like that has no signs, nothing.
Is it really a road? Is it just it's a direction?
It's something. It's something.
It's not
got.
a road.
And sometimes we've driven down the places that don't have any roads, and he says, "I have to go down here because something's pulling me." And I'm like, "What the fuck? No!" All my stuff comes up. Right, I'm getting much better at going with it.
Yeah.
And there will be something incredibly amazing at the end of this.
Yeah. He's going to be really disappointed the time he goes, "I'm going this direction." You go, "Okay."
Yes.
He'll be like, "What?" Oh.
Exactly. But you know what's funny? Just on that too, we go away a lot, you know, and we go off track a lot. Yeah. And I've noticed this thing about me that I love roads that have lines on them. Right?
Oh.
Yeah. How wild is that?
Yeah.
And as soon as we go off roads that
lot
don't
of
have
those out
lines, I have a little, I start to get a little bit antsy, like that there's no lines. Like it's almost like a protection for me to drive on a road that has lines.
Yeah.
Safe.
Great awareness.
So I've been like getting a lot more comfortable with dirt roads and, you know, not well-worn roads. It's a bit of a metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it?
It is. It's massive. So it's like, you know, sometimes we have to trust even the closest people to us.
Oh, definitely.
That, you know, that where they're taking us is a beautiful lesson for not only them, but for you as well.
And also sometimes people who aren't even close to us.
Yeah.
As for an example we had recently with a friend where an angel turned up and told them what to do in a life-threatening situation.
Yes.
And they listened and
so
I want to ask Narelle, what's your off track? What's your like?
Yeah, what do you do to keep your
what's
brain
your
cracking?
Cracking my brain.
Yes. What do you do to crack your brain?
I mean, I think at the moment I'm studying A Course in Miracles, and that is sufficiently cracking my brain on a daily basis.
And you're really just decided to do it 100%, haven't you?
You're really committed.
I think,
which is
like,
really
if I'm
huge.
doing something, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm either in or I'm out. And so I'm really, I'm doing it, I'm practicing it, and I'm loving it. I have to say, like, it is A Course in Miracles. There's no question. It's, you know, daily miracles I'm experiencing. But it is work. Like it's a different kind of work. But I believe it's the most important work that I could be doing. And you know, I've definitely been guided to it through my partner Lee, who came across it and was guided to do it, and we're going through it together. And it's just
so
it's a
beautiful.
gift.
It's incredible,
It is a gift, but it's. That's the brain cracking.
Did you want to share, before we finish up, did you want to share what the miracle is today? What the...
what the lesson is.
What the lesson is today.
Oh gosh, I can't remember. It is... Let it come to me.
So while you're remembering, I'm going to share what's cracking my brain is because I realised recently that when I was younger, I was pretty wild and free, and I guess in a very like just in my own world kind of way, like growing up on farms and, you know, bareback horse riding and all the things, and just kind of being out there in nature and just out there. And I think I've worked my way into it. I'll say, even though I wouldn't say my life is conventional, probably what could be, conventional, and I'm working way back out again, and that's cracking my brain.
That's awesome.
So
I love
the remembering of
Yeah.
things, is an interesting
that.
way of cracking your brain.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I can really relate to that, actually, because I've had like all of these real awarenesses lately of how much I really have tried to mold myself to fit a certain way of the world when it comes to business, particularly, and really not trusting my instincts. And this is through, investing in various
There's so many
masterminds
formulas
and mentors that, just, I thought it was what I had to do and blah, blah, blah. And actually just coming really, circling all the way back to my truth, which is where I started. And the trust, it's like I'm really recognizing how deeply I can trust myself again, because I kind of lost that a little bit. And actually this little string that's on my wrist is from the retreat. We all had an intention at the start of the week, and tied a little string around our wrist to remind us of our intention throughout the week. And then when it falls off is when you don't need it anymore. And mine's still going. A couple of the other ladies have fallen off, and I didn't know, like I had an intention, but I didn't know, I had one and then it fell off the next day. So I was like, okay, well that's obviously done. Tick, boom, next. And then I put this one on, and the word that just like shouted in my ear was trust. And I was like, cool, I like that. And it's such a great reminder every day to just trust. And since I've been wearing it, it's like these layers of where I wasn't trusting myself have been cracking off. And it feels like it's cracking my brain of the remembrance of more of who I am and how much I can trust in that.
Wow.
So yes, thank you for reminding me of that.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Still can't remember my lesson though. Which is terrible. Can I have a look?
Yeah, go on.
I want to know. I have a feeling that I really want to know what that is today.
I feel like the authenticity and the trust space will be innately woven into it somehow.
Yes, I do too.
More than likely, yes.
Yeah. It's,
and it's funny because often I don't remember the lesson, and it's just one word. I mean, there's a whole 2 or 3 or 4 pages that come with the line or the words, but it's the ego, because the whole course is the undoing of the ego, and so it just does not want you to think about it, doesn't want you to remember it.
What I found
it's really interesting.
The thinking when you're doing the Course of Miracles, if you think, you just can't get past a page.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
You're reading it. You're reading it, and you're reading it,
and it's not sinking.
It's just it's like words are just jumbling everywhere.
Like
Yeah, it's a great ego trick.
Yeah.
So I'm on lesson 161, which is give me your blessing, Holy Son of God. And so what this is referring to is every time you see someone, basically throughout the day, you're asking for the blessing, because as you receive, you give. So I'm receiving a blessing, I'm giving a blessing. But it asks you to focus on one person in the morning and in the evening whom you might have had a grievance with, or don't necessarily hold the most loving thoughts around. And ask to see them, ask Christ, the Holy Spirit, for guidance in seeing them in their purest light. And so asking them for the blessing of their truth, because their truth is light, can't be anything else. The grievance is a story, it's made up, it's a projection, it's something that needs to be handed over, forgiven. And so that is the focus for today.
That's beautiful.
Which kind of is what also encompasses what we shared around the judgment.
100%.
So
what is theirs is ours, or what is ours is theirs.
Namaste.
Namaste.
No disrespect, total respect in saying that.
Thank you, Narelle, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
We
Thank
can't
you for
wait to
having
have you
me.
back.
Yeah.
Very soon.
It's
Which, yeah,
always a pleasure.
That's
Thank
a little
you.
hint for some things that are in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're not going to tell you.
Thanks, honey.
Thank you, beautiful.
Spirit, she comes in my dreams.
Thank you for listening to our Girl Awakening podcast. We are also on YouTube as Girl Awakening. We'd love to see you there with comments on how our guests resonated with you or your own awakening. Please share the love with a like and subscribe while you're there. A blissful thank you to Ksenia Luki, the amazing artist behind our theme song. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.